We're going to talk about these 7 things that you can do to get weeks of your year back. Does anyone here, you let me know by tapping the screen or whatever, do you ever feel like you are just drowning in schoolwork and your to-do list is just getting longer and longer and longer? And it doesn't matter how many years you've taught, but your list is still the same every year and it keeps growing and you feel like you're never going to dig yourself out of this hole. Let me know by tapping the screen if that describes you, because I have 7 tips that are going to help you save time in the classroom and get weeks of your school year back. You just have to, all you have to do is take the ideas and then implement them. So I'm going to give you some resources for doing that. Yes, for sure, says Angel. The list keeps growing, especially when you change grade levels, right, Angel? Lana says, yes. First day of EPK in Florida. Woo! And you're here, right? Yes, good for you. Sarah says it's never ending. That is so true. The list just keeps going on. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning of the year, the end of the year. Hey, Candy. Yes, it is. It's very odd weather we're having here in Texas today. Okay, so I'm sure that a lot of you already have this resource, but you're welcome. This is a great refresher, okay? So this is my ebook, okay? Pre-K teaching hacks. It's really good for pre-K 3s, pre-K 4s, kindergarten teachers, really. It's just got pre-K in the title, but it's good for all early childhood teachers. So pre-K teaching hacks. It's a free 20-page ebook. You can just download it and read it on your device or your computer. If you want to get fancy, you can go ahead and print it. But it has 7 tips that are going to help you save time. Like, where do you focus, right? You have 8 million things to do. Where can you focus in right now during this crazy time to make the rest of the year go more smoothly, okay? So that's what we're doing here. Hey, Mary started today. Woo! After 28 years, says Brenda, the beginning of school doesn't get easier. That's true. I'm buried in NACI accreditation. Yes, bless your heart, as we say in Texas. So here are my 7 tips, and Tom will drop the links. He will drop the link, or he already has, to the ebook for you below. If you don't already have it, or if you downloaded it and lost it, whatever, you can grab it again and save it to your device. So the very first thing is setting the stage. Okay, so some of you have already had your first day. That's okay. You can still use this idea. You just have to backpedal a little bit. So the first one is setting the stage. If you take just a little bit of time up front to set the stage for this school year, right, you can make the rest of the year go more smoothly by doing just these few things. And so the first one is having a parent handbook. Now, some of you that work in a childcare setting, you may have a parent handbook for your entire center, and that's great. But what we need to do with the parent handbooks is we need to take into consideration the learning styles of our parents and how they receive this information. So does anyone here, or anyone out there in cyber world who's watching, have you ever sent something home in a child's backpack, otherwise known as the black hole, and you've never seen it again? The same thing happens with parent handbooks, okay? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a very clearly defined parent handbook, and everyone's on the same page. All the parents in your classroom are on the same page, and that you've made sure that you have shared all the information that you need to share with them, right? Because you don't want to be standing in front of all the parents or at an open house or meet the teacher, whatever you want to call it, and forget a really important thing, like to tell them to bring a change of clothes on the first day. Like, number 1, super important, right? And you have to make sure they really understand to send that change of clothes, especially if it's the child's first time away from their parents in any kind of school setting. That setting, you know, even if the child, if the parent says 100% fully trained, hasn't had an accident in 2 years, they might have an accident on the first day because it's a different situation. So you want to make sure that you have a parent handbook, and you want to make sure that everything the parent needs to know is in there, and it's organized. It has labeled sections, Everything is clearly spelled out. It has all the information that the parents will need to have a successful year with their child in preschool. And some of you are like, well, it's my first year. How would I know what to put in a handbook? And that's okay, because I've done a lot of the hard work for you if you like a template. Now, if you want to make your own, you're totally welcome to do that. When I was in the classroom, I didn't have a fancy template. We made our own in a Word document, and this template is basically the same wording and the same setup that we used, only I've made them cute. So if you like that kind of thing, then I have some of those for you. Tom will drop a link for you below. But if you really want to work smarter instead of harder this year, you're going to want to have a parent handbook. And so here's the thing about the parents. So giving them a handbook, right? You know, the black hole, we talked about the backpack, giving them a handbook often just results in the handbook going into what we like to call the circular file or the trash can. So we have to take into account their learning styles, right? So some parents, if you say the information to them in an open house, they might not intake all of it because there's a lot of distraction, there's a lot of noise, they're worried, they're tired, they're frazzled from a long day at work. They might not get everything that you're saying. They might not be able to comprehend it all, because it is a lot of information. It's information overload, especially for new parents. So you're going to want to have that printed version or some kind of version they can access on their device so that they can see it in print and reference it later. But you're also going to want to make sure that you say all of the information to them for your parents who are auditory learners, right? And then you're also going to want to have a guide for yourself and for those parents who are visual learners. So I have matching PowerPoint templates that I made, or you can just make your own. I never had a fancy PowerPoint template. In my classroom, we made our own, just using whatever tools were available in Microsoft PowerPoint. And it is the exact same information that's in the handbook. So the PowerPoints and the handbooks match. So you can have a PowerPoint that you can go through with the parents, and that will help you stay on track. And then all the pages in the handbook line up with the PowerPoint. So they have a printed version, they have the visual on the screen, you have the visual, we're all following along, and then we don't forget to tell them about that important change of clothes or whatever it is that you absolutely have to communicate with them, like the most important things, right? You don't want to miss anything like that. So taking that little bit of time up front is really going to set the stage for success, right? If you have ever been in a situation where you've had an open house or a meet the teacher event or whatever, and you forgot to say one important thing, and you get bombarded with questions. And that's the other thing, is that you get bombarded with lots and lots of questions, and a lot of those questions are repeats. And so you find yourself just repeating the same information over and over. But when you have it in your handbook and you have it in the PowerPoint, it makes it so much easier for parents to digest that information, and then they start kind of answering each other's question. Now, what bus number was that you said that the Farmersville was going to ride to school? Can you tell me that number again? Oh, and then somebody else might say, oh, it's right here on page 22 of the handbook. She has all the bus numbers right there. You know, if they came in late or they didn't hear it, you know, they start helping each other. It takes the burden off you. It just relieves you from a lot of stress. So this little bit of extra effort before the first day is going to have you reaping the rewards all year long, because all parents will be on the same page. And then if you get new children, new students during the school year, you have it all right there. You have it right in your hands. You print one out. You can have it available for them on their device or however you like to do that. And they will get the same exact information that the parents at the original open house received. So everybody's on the same page. So you can make your own, or you can check out the ones I have, but they are this system, this parent handbook with the PowerPoint and having the two match is really going to set the stage for success. The next one is a curriculum map. So a lot of times we spend so much time making our classrooms cute for the first day of school and worrying about all the things that are out of our control and things that might happen on the first day, that we don't give as much time to thinking out our curriculum as we might. So if you have some kind of a pacing guide or curriculum map already in place before the first day, it's going to make your year go much more smoothly. Now, I have a couple of tools that can help you do that. And this tool is free. A lot of you already have it. It's the Teaching Trailblazer, which is my free 70-plus page printable curriculum map that helps you plan your entire year of pre-K. It also has an editable template. So if you wanted to just look at the version that I have, and then you can take the template and type in your own. So let's say, for example, if you're in Texas and you have to do Texas the first week of March because that's, open house week or whatever, then you have the flexibility to do that. And if you're not in Texas, you're probably not going to be doing that. So maybe you have something else in your curricula that you have to do that isn't in this generic one. So you can use that template to create your own. But you have to have something in place because the curriculum map helps you see the end goal, right? You have a goal in mind as you take your kids through the year. You know what the objectives are that you're teaching. You know what the learning standards or goals or guidelines or whatever you call them where you are. You know what those are, and you have to have a clear map on how you're going to get there. That doesn't mean that every minute of every day has to be planned out and follow certain pages in a guide and all that, but you have to have some kind of a path. You can still have child-led and interest-driven type things, but you still have to have some kind of a path to take you through the forest, right? You have to know how to get where you're going. And so having some skills and some curriculum mapping in place is really going to be helpful. Hey, Nadine, we have a lot of folks who use the Trailblazer. She's asking, is it appropriate for 3-year-olds? We have a lot of folks who use the Trailblazer to guide their instruction in the 3-year-old classroom because then they can see where their kids need to end up by the time they're 4. So they use that and they say, okay, if they're starting 4-year-old pre-K on these skills and this is where they're going with that, then we can look at what we can do to support that in the 3-year-old classroom while still being developmentally appropriate. So this curriculum map lays out what skills to teach and when. It's also good for TK if you teach TK as well, which is the California Transitional Kinder Program, or JK in Canada. So how do you know when to teach syllables, when to teach phonemes, one-to-one correspondence skills? See, long-term planning, of course, you're going to use a lot of assessment to drive your instruction, and we'll get to that in a minute, but you do have to have a general outline in place. All right. So that's the second tip, is have a curriculum map, whether you make your own from scratch. You can use my free editable template to guide you in that, or you can print out the one that I've already done. You can take a look at it to see if it meets your needs. And the next thing is lesson plans. So here's the thing. We've set the stage and you've got your curriculum map. Now it's time to dig into the actual lessons we're going to teach, right? Because it's one thing to have all the parents all on the same page and have everything start off smoothly and to have a curriculum map in place. But now we have to teach the kids that are in front of us, right? And that's where it can get tricky, right? So we don't want to take any nosedives here. Here's one thing that when I wrote this ebook, I was positive there were very few people out there still using handwritten lesson plans, but I've since learned that that's not true. But I want to, the reason I created an editable lesson plan template is because I remember when I taught Head Start back in the early 90s, and I would sit on my couch on Sunday nights, I would just dread. I would get up Sunday and start dreading the day because I had to write my plans by hand. And so much of all that handwritten stuff was the same every single week. You know, hand washing, breakfast, lunch, snack, recess, you know, all of that stuff was the same. And I was writing it by hand every week. And I was like, there has to be a better way. So one of the things I did was I created an editable lesson plan template. Now mine is kind of, you can type into it and save it type of a thing, but you can do your own on the computer and then just save as every week and save it with a new name or the date or whatever it is so that you can go back next year and tweak it as needed, but that you're not dreading your Sunday nights like I was. So yeah, that is really, really something I encourage you to do, because it's really important that not just you can read your lesson plans, but that everybody can read your lesson plans, whether that's a substitute teacher or your administrator or whatever. And you're going to save yourself tons of time when you don't have to write those same times and the same repetitive things. You can leave those repetitive things in there every week and then change out the different skills, the read alouds, and all that stuff. But I do have an editable lesson plan template for you here. It does include examples as well as small group lesson plans and all different types of plans that you might use. But having it in an electronic format is going to save you tons of time. Tap the screen if you use any kind of electronic lesson planning tool, whether that's an online tool or just a document. Let me know, because we want to convince everyone out there to let go of the handwritten lesson plans. Unless you have oodles of time, unless you enjoy spending tons of time writing things over and over again. It always reminded me of Bart Simpson writing in the blackboard. Yes. Margaret, Tom will drop, or has dropped, a link to the Trailblazer, which is my free 70-page printable curriculum map for you, in the comments below. Okay, so now we've talked about how to get all the parents on the same page, set the stage for the entire year. We've talked about our curriculum map and how important it is to have one, and we've talked about the lesson plans, because now we're going to take the information from the curriculum map, right, and we're going to use that information to create our lesson plans. So now let's talk about the actual physical things the kids are going to be doing in the room, the activities. Like, where do you get those, right? So this is the time-consuming part of teaching, coming up with the actual activities that you will use for your lessons, okay? So we all know that young children learn best through hands-on exploration and manipulation, right? When they touch, they feel, they need to touch things, right? They need to touch and manipulate items to make learning meaningful, fun, and engaging for them. So nothing will get them to act out more quickly than a flat, boring worksheet. That's just the honest truth. So we have to look for those highly engaging activities. I like to call them hooks. They're going to hook them on learning and get them excited about school and want to come back every day. So where do you find these elusive Goldilocks type activities, right? Because we all know that you can get on Pinterest and fall down a hole and still not know if the activity is good for your kids, because you don't know where the activity came from. So here's what I've done. I've taken my more than 20 years of classroom experience, and I have created small group hands-on literacy and math activities to make learning fun and engaging for your kids. So you can check them out in my store at Pre-K Pages. Now, if you're a member of the Teaching Tribe, you have access to all of those in the vault. So you don't have to jump through any hoops. Just log into the tribe, go to the vault, and just start searching for whatever your theme is or your topic or whatever. You can just type literacy in there if you want the small group activities or math, all that stuff. But I have tons, more than 300 different printable type things I've created over the years. Now, all of my printables, the small group activities, we talked about hands-on, 3D, engaging, and fun. They're all kind of guides. They all have a three-dimensional component to them. So they're not just flat worksheets. For example, the syllable games, they have they utilized cubes, movement cubes or rolling cubes. All of the activities have a three-dimensional component that you can use in the classroom so the kids are touching and feeling. So now that you know where to go to get your activities, you've got your lesson plans, and you've got your, you've set the stage and you got your curriculum map. Let's get real now, right? Anyone here have a messy closet at school? Tap the screen if you have a messy closet. How about a messy cabinet? Or a messy shelf or desk, right? Yeah, because teaching little kids is messy work, okay? I just told you that it takes all kinds of stuff, hands-on stuff to teach little kids, right? And where do you put all that stuff? Honestly, I really think that every early childhood classroom should come with 2 rooms, one for the stuff and one for the kids, because you need an extra room to store the stuff. Yes, says Kathy, right? Yes, we absolutely have a lot of stuff because we know that hands-on learning is best. And so hands-on means stuff, but we don't have anywhere to put it. So here's what we need to do. We need to be really organized and smart about our storage and organization in our classrooms, because what happens is when you get enough stuff, when you start getting enough stuff to teach kids, Brenda says she just purged 10 bags of stuff. That's awesome, Brenda. When you have so much stuff that you can't find what you need when you need it, you actually start to waste time looking for it. So if your goal is really to teach smarter and save time this year and get weeks of your year back, having a super organized classroom in a storage area is actually going to save you tons of time, because you know exactly where things are when you need them. You can get your hands on them. So it saves you time on planning. So putting that little bit of extra effort in up front to make sure everything is super organized and labeled. I'm not talking just about the stuff on the shelf for the kids. I'm talking about everything in your closet labeled so that you can put your hands on it when you need it to save time planning. Hey, Crystal, I have been in that situation so many times where I did not have a closet. You know, I have rooms here at my house that are filled with stuff. I totally get that. Yeah, not having storage is, my storage is my bedroom. Yes, I can relate to that too. All right, so we have some resources at Pre-K Pages to help you organize your teacher's supplies, everything in your centers. We have lots of storage and organization tips for you. So Tom is going to drop a links to a few of those storage and organization ideas for you in the comments below, and you can go check those out to see if you can save time this year by getting super organized. All right, so that brings us to assessment. So we have all parents on the same page. We have the curriculum map. We have our lesson plans. We're saving time on those. We have our activities. We're organized. Now there's another thing that we need, and that is assessment. And I know that's an ugly word for some of y'all. And some of you have assessments for your assessments. But we do need some form of assessment in place, because without it, we won't know where our children are, and how do we get them where they need to go if we don't know where they currently are. So we do need some kind of assessment in place. And so I have some information about assessment over on Pre-K Pages that Tom will drop for you in the comments below. So yeah, you need to know that assessment isn't something we do because we have to. Real assessment drives our instruction and informs our teaching practice. So we need to assess what our kids know so we can better understand what we should be teaching. So one of the examples I like to use is if we're teaching colors. You know, let's say you have a younger class and you're teaching them to identify colors, but what if you started teaching your colors unit and you found out that all of your kids already knew all the colors except maybe purple and black? Then it would really be wasted instructional time. So yeah, I follow the keep it simple, silly theory, and that means to collect your data quickly and to use it to inform your instruction. And I have some resources for that. So I have some printable versions, and that's great. But my favorite is ESGI, and ESGI takes the pain out of assessing. It makes it super quick and super easy so that you can get back to doing what you do best and what you love to do, and that's teaching. So because no one goes into teaching for the assessment, right? Like, yay, I can't wait to assess my kids now. It's like one of those downsides of the job. So yeah, you want to make assessment as quick and painless for you and the kids as possible, because let's face it, none of us have time to sit around and assess our kids all day, although some of us have to. So I have some tools that you can use. You can look at it over at Pre-K Pages. Margaret says she loves ESGI. Yes, it is such a time saver, and the information that it gives us is so practical. So yeah, let's see. Wanda says, I have decluttered so much since joining the teaching tribe. Yay! Jennifer says, your organization tips saved my life. My cabinet looked like I was a hoarder until I cleaned it out and organized it. That's awesome. Yay! Okay. So let me just, is there such a thing as enough stuff? Asked Lori. And the answer to that, Lori, is no. No, because, you know, my role is, though, if I bring something new into the classroom, that I have to let something go, because the more you bring in, you know, that you can't keep filling it. So I do let things go occasionally to make room for the new. Yay, Yvonne from the Bahamas is in the house. Yes. Yeah, Brenda uses, she uses a very scripted assessment program. I'm very familiar with that, Brenda. And as we say in Texas, bless your heart. All right. So oh, it looks like I lost one page. Oh, no. We had a little printer mishap earlier. So let me pop that back up on the screen. Hold on one second. My printer ate my lesson plans. That's what we're going to say. Okay. All right. Oh, number 7 is subplans. Okay, so a lot of you are like, Vanessa, the last thing on my mind right now are subplans. Okay, and I get you. I totally feel you. Okay. Let me tell you, and those of you who've been around me for a while and watched, I have like 2.5 years of Facebook Lives, so hundreds of videos. You've heard this story before. I apologize in advance, but I got called for jury duty 3 times in one school year. And I'm positive my principal thought I was lying just to get out of work. But seriously, 3 times in 1 year. That's city, that's state, and that's federal. Or no, city, county, and federal. Yeah. So it was no bueno, okay? And I had to miss these 3 days of school, and in addition to any other times I caught the plague or whatever. And they were not the most convenient days to be absent. They were like the day after a holiday, and they were on the day when I had 2 ARDs scheduled, things like that. But anyway, my point is that having your sub-plans or a sub-system in place before the first day of school is going to save your bacon, okay? Because if something were to happen, I was just reading a post from a friend of mine today, and his kids started school today, and they all got food poisoning last night. Yeah. And if you were a teacher, you might have to call in sick on the first day of school. That's happened to me. Not the food poisoning thing, but I've had to miss the first day of school for extenuating circumstances before. And having your sub plans done in advance is going to save you so much time. It's going to just release you from a lot of stress, because if you indeed are sick, or if your children are sick, or for whatever reason, that's already stressful enough. You don't need the added stress of, oh my gosh, who's going to take my class and how are they going to know what to do. And it is extremely stressful to think about all those little people, you know, all the little people in your classroom who rely on you. Like, who's going to sing the good morning song with them? If they don't have the good morning song, everything goes downhill, right? How do I tell someone where to find the good morning song and what the good morning song is? You know, all of these little things, because little people are very sensitive, you know, they like their schedule and their routine. And if things don't go the way that they expect them to, then you know what, we'll break loose. So having all of that in place before the first day, or as close to the first day as you can, is really going to alleviate some of the stress of the school year. So that's tip number 7, to save tons of time this year, is to have some kind of subsystem in place. And you can do that any number of ways. When I was in the classroom, I had a binder, 3-ring binder. I had it tabbed. I had it organized by, you know, I had 2 classes, AM and PM. I had class lists. I had class schedules. I had, you know, medication lists. I had specials lists and who saw which specialist when. I had all the songs and where they were and how to play them. I had, everything was detailed down to the minute. Like, you must start cleaning up 10 minutes before the final bell, or you will not make it to the bus on time, or, you know, everything was planned out. And it just saved me so much time and stress, because then if I truly was sick, then I didn't have to come up to school, or I didn't have to bother my coworkers. Everything was just taken care of. So I really encourage you to do that. If you need a template, I have one as well that Tom will put, I think he's already put in the links below, or in the comments below, pardon me. So if you really want to teach smarter and not harder this year, save tons of time and get weeks to your year back, then you're going to want to grab this free ebook that you can download at Pre-K Pages. And you're going to want to look at those 7 suggestions, and you don't have to purchase anything. Just look at those suggestions. If you can do them on your own, then go for it, because my goal is always to help teachers teach better, save time, and live more.